intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
I think they say the second time's the charm, and maybe we'll get into why I say that to start this interview. But before we start, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media at Hops Spirits, all one word, hopspirits.com to find past episodes, and also find our Facebook group, Country Music and Bourbon, where you can keep up with some interesting things, see who's coming next on our shows, and so much more. But like I said, we're welcoming back because we tried this once before. Technology wasn't our friend. Let's welcome in country artist, songwriter. His new single, Hello Fool, is out now. He's got a new album, Long Way From Home, releasing June 21st. Let's welcome in George Ducas.
Jonathan, great to be back, man. We almost finished one a couple weeks ago, but we're going to try again. We had the technical difficulties kicking in, and but it's good to be back, man. We're going to give it a second go here, just like it's the first time. Feels like the first time.
Exactly. And since this is Bar Conversations, if you're watching and not listening, you can see behind George, I believe you've got a bottle of Garrison Brothers. Am I right?
I do. I sure do. Yep. And I have to say, they're mighty proud of it, but I gotta say, they have reason to be. I don't know if you've
nice.
I don't know if you've tried it or not. Of course,
I've had like a sample here and there, but nothing like actual enough to make a good opinion.
So, Texas straight bourbon whiskey, Garrison Brothers. It is. There's several ideations of it. I find the silver to be really, really nice and very smooth, but also hearty. The back end is not, terribly burning, but you don't feel like you're, it doesn't feel like you're sipping on Coca-Cola either. So it's got a great front end, and I feel like it doesn't leave the back of your throat just like on fire. But that it's just got a great warmth to it. And I really, I have to say I enjoy it. The price is steeper than most, I think, but maybe it's in that category of you get what you pay for, or maybe you just feel like you're getting what you're paying for. Sometimes like the psychology of pricing is interesting too. So, but I do enjoy it. It's almost like if you sold it for $10, well, maybe it's crappy. Maybe it's only worth $10, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But I do think it's really nice. I do recommend it, and it is one that I drink at home on occasion. And so yeah, that's what I'm drinking tonight. What about you?
So I was trying to find. I don't have a ton of Texas bourbon at the house, just because of being in Kentucky. We get some things, but I haven't.
You're in the.
Exactly. So, but because I know you enjoy playing the guitar and all that, I decided to go with a little Blue Note rye whiskey, which is obviously a fun ode to some guitars. They're based out of Memphis, but it's distilled in Kentucky. So figured I'd try something a little different tonight.
Excellent. All right. I love Memphis. I love the music that comes out of it, and I did not know that they actually had their own bourbon brand, but I'm willing to try.
Yeah, they're doing some good stuff. Everything I've had from them has been pretty good. This is the first time I've had their rye, and I'm enjoying it. It's nice to try the different ones, and I love Texas bourbon because I think your heat waves down there can do something to that bourbon and age it maybe a little quicker. And I've enjoyed some good things from like Still Austin, Balcones.
Oh yeah,
and a couple others. So they're doing some good stuff down there.
Balcones is great stuff. It's just crazy what's happened, and I think we talked about this previous months, but just the complete it's almost mind-boggling, the proliferation of all the different boutique brands out there in the bourbon world, in the whiskey world, even I think even in the Scotch world. I'm not a Scotch drinker, but it's mind-boggling. It's hard to keep up with,
Absolutely. And for a guy that does this for a living, I'm like, wait, when did that brand come on? come
Oh yeah,
along. So there's
oh
new
yeah,
ones every day.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
now I've got to ask you, since we're talking whiskey, was one of the first songs you ever really wrote, and it was at age 11 or 12 or something like that, called "Women and Whiskey"?
It was. So see, I was made to be your partner here on your podcast. I was. It was. This was supposed to happen. Don't you know? So yeah, I mean, I grew up. For those that don't know, I've been at it a while. So I'm just about. We briefly mentioned the new album that's coming out um, June 21st, called "Long Way from Home." That'll be my fifth studio album. But I've kind of had a foot in both the songwriting world, writing songs for not only myself but for others too, um, and have written hits for a number of other compadres in the country music field. Garth Brooks, Sarah Evans, Eli Young Band, cuts by Trisha Yearwood, Gary Allen. That's been a whole almost sidebar career for me. So um, I definitely come from the songwriter end of things, but I've always been a performer. I've always enjoyed making my own records. This will be my fifth, as I mentioned, fifth studio album. But it all started with songwriting back in Texas, and I split time between Texas and California growing up. And I was just listening to a lot of the records that my parents had around the house at the time. Like you said, about age 10, 11, 12. Probably about the same time most of us pick it up, you know. And for me, a lot of those records were either old blues stuff, John Lee Hooker or Muddy Waters, to the country stuff that was, kind of, really strong in Texas at the time, which Willie Nelson was, right in the midst of his, outlaw movement there in the 80s. And so it was an exciting time to be in Texas. Every New Year's Eve, I'd go to the Willie Nelson concert. It was just across town in Houston. And I'd walk out of that building wanting to, I'd be like, the mind of a 12-year-old kid, like you walk around cool, you're like thinking to yourself, when I turn this corner, I'm going to be Willie Nelson. Like I'm going to know what it feels like to be. Like, just the imagination is so vivid. And I picked up a guitar for the second, after quitting initially, picked it up and just sort of started trying to emulate him in my songwriting, writing about the things that I would hear him writing about, So obviously did not know anything about women, still don't know enough, but and knew perhaps even less about whiskey or bourbon. But yeah, about age 11 or 12, I wrote a song called "Women and Whiskey," and that was kind of like off and running from then on. And every time my parents would have they'd have friends over for dinner or something, and they'd say, "Hey George, come down." It was either George, come down and do your Willie Nelson impression, or it was George, hey, come play us that song you wrote, And of course, that was the only song I wrote for probably a year, and then I was like, oh, I can write another one, So it kind of just went on from there. But it really did a lot of my inspiration and direction musically started with Willie, who just had a birthday. So
I know he's still going strong.
yeah,
It's crazy to.
happy birthday to Willie. I think we have to
Absolutely.
bring it in here. There you go.
And you talk about kind of growing up on all that, but I don't in the songs you did, but I don't feel like everyone was writing songs, even if they wanted to be a songwriter or eventually became a songwriter, were writing things at 11 or 12 with a sense like you did of you were pulling off of stuff that maybe you heard or been around, maybe not so much your life experiences. So like looking back, is it kind of weird to see that you had that songwriter mentality even then, where you're just creating ideas and writing off of other people's thoughts? You know what I mean? Like how a writer room would work?
100%. Or someone said to me like a couple weeks ago, I got a real kick out of this. I was on the phone with, and they said 1,000,000%. I was like, oh my God, that's so great. It's so wrong. I'm going to use that. That's like no such thing, but I get what you mean. And so yeah, I mean, it is weird, and I go back and like if I used to not play this. I play it now, just goofy stuff. Like it is good interview kind of material to play that tune now, and I'm no longer kind of embarrassed by it, like the way I perhaps was when I first started out in the business and was coming out with my first album. And I was like, oh God, don't ask me to play that. You know, that you got to take that out of the, take it out of the biomaterial.
Yeah.
But now it's like it doesn't really faze me. It's kind of funny, and actually it does kind of. You are like, how did that kid like pull that much? Because we're sponges, at that age, we're just total sponges. I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but I do. And like, I mean, you realize it once you have children, like, wow, they are just picking up everything, and I certainly was.
It's terrifying.
What's that?
I said sometimes it's terrifying because I'm like, where'd you learn that? I don't remember saying that. And then you're like, oh, maybe I did.
Exactly. Spoken like a true pro. No, I mean it is. So now I don't really mind playing the tune. It's always kind of fascinating to me still. Like it's not even really me. It's just that version of me way back when.
Well, and you talk about where you kind of split your time between Texas and California. And you grew up in Texas, moved to California for a bit, came back to Texas for high school and so forth. What impact did kind of being in those two areas have on you with the sound and the music you grew up on and things like that?
A lot, man. I mean, obviously we talked about some of the Texas stuff already, whether it was Willie or even the Texas singer-songwriter stuff that was kind of big at the time. Everybody from, Jerry Jeff Walker to the Guy Clark stuff, and some of those guys people may not even know today, but like there was a whole scene down there, and there still is. Now it's just changed. The names have changed, but there's still Texas has its own music. It's great to be a part of, and it's kind of a little. I don't know, man. It's like a little club of its own. You don't pick it; it picks you, and I'm proud to be a part of that. And I'm also really proud of like the California side of what I do, which is really leans into the Bakersfield, the honky tonk stuff, and kind of that whole left of center, California country rock thing that even Tom Petty, which I dedicate a Tom Petty song in my show every night, because I think he's one of the greatest, American singer-songwriters, certainly of our time, but I would maybe even say of all time. The guy was it's such a travesty that he's not with us anymore, but you don't even realize like how many great songs he had. And at its core, you could even say, he's countryer than a lot of country stuff that's coming out now. In fact, I think didn't he have some battle with somebody a few years back? I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Florida Georgia Line. Didn't he go back and forth in the media about the two of them kind of went out?
Yeah, I think
a little bit.
And now I think, now some of his stuff's being covered for an album. I think so by country artists.
Yep.
So it's come full circle for him.
No doubt. And we throw out a Petty song nightly on the road. So that's always a part of what I do. I've leaned mostly, of course, on my own material, but I play a lot of my songwriter hits that I've written for others, and then, of course, I play a lot of the songs that I've recorded myself on my albums, and then I play a few songs of my inspirations, guys like Merle Haggard, who again, that's going back to that honky tonk Bakersfield movement. I know Merle spent time in Nashville too, but really, at its core, like when he started out, his formative years of creating and emulating his heroes, those were guys like Lefty Frizzell and Win Stewart, going back even further. So Merle really is kind of embodies that California thing, California country sound, and in much the same way that Buck Owens did, and those guys. I've always just really leaned into that, and I don't know if it's because I lived out there, as a kid, or I don't know if it's just what my ear is kind of into. But I like the rawness of that as opposed to the, full, almost reaching for pop production values that Nashville historically, and a lot of great music has come out of Nashville, don't get me wrong, but it's always kind of wanted to be a little something more, and you can't fault us for that, trying to expand, but just sonically speaking, the records that came out of Bakersfield were just so raw and awesome.
Well, we talk about how, being able to go to Willie Nelson's New Year's Eve show kind of had a major impact. You were writing songs at 11 or 12. When did you kind of go, you know what, music, that could be something I could do. Like, that could be my career. That's something I should give a shot. When did that thought process finally enter your life?
Man, I'm slow on the.
Are you still thinking about it?
I'm still kind of wondering what I'm supposed to really be doing. I mean, honestly, like a little nap in here or something. No, to be serious for a second, like I really, it took me, a while. I didn't really know it was really on the menu, so to speak. Like, I mean, probably until I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20, I guess is when I really moved to Nashville to really try to get after it and really realized that songwriting could be a career. First, I thought of that. But even then, at that time, I was already performing in bars. I just didn't know how to translate that to an actual, a career. Beyond, the couple $100 or $200 or whatever you get paid to go play for 4 hours in a bar, So it wasn't until I moved to Nashville and kind of had a couple people that really kind of believed in what I was doing and took me under their wing. And one of them was Radney Foster, fellow Texan, and we wound up writing a song for his first solo album. He had put out a couple albums as a duo called Foster and Lloyd. But we wrote a tune for his first solo album. This is like, I was just barely in town. Like, I had just fallen off the turnip truck or whatever. Like, it was crazy. But it helped me. The song's called Just Call Me Lonesome. And it's a super Texas-y shuffle, very, very inspired by Buck Owens, which I was listening to a lot at the time. Because I didn't grow up with guys like Buck Owens and Merle Haggard a little bit, but Buck lesser. It wasn't until I moved here and got serious about songwriting, went back and studied like his records, because I was like, well, where did Merle come from? What was he? Who else was around him at the time out there? And so, the Buck Owens box set had come out. So many great songs. I mean, Together Again, Act Naturally. Like, I could go on, and then his harmonies with Don Rich and Don Rich's guitar playing. Just a great band, but. So Just Call Me Lonesome is like right out of the Buck Owens playbook. I mean, so we wrote that and it wound up being a big top 10 hit for Radney Foster. And he had really sort of taken me under his wing as kind of like my maybe uncle slash almost father figure at the time, like kind of the uncle I never had sort of deal. So I'm grateful to him always, still. And wound up signing a publishing deal, and that led to a record deal. Kind of things progressed pretty quickly from there. But it all started with the songwriting.
Well, no, I was going to say, you talk about that song because you were doing a little bit of writing. You were still kind of young, but how much, when people really think like when you say like a song can change so much, how much did that co-write with Radney, Just Call Me Lonesome change everything for you?
Well, I mean, it like I said, he kind of, with that tune, once it kind of took off on the charts, it got a lot of attention. It kind of led to kind of broaden my scope of who was really into what I was doing and writing, wanting to write with me or coming out to my shows where I played at a little pool hall every Friday night, sometimes Friday and Saturday. And that's literally how I paid rent before I had a publishing deal. And even after I had a publishing deal and was getting a small, stipend, I kept playing there because eventually it started to become a vehicle for um, much more than just having fun and honing your skills and introducing your songs and trying to figure out, who you were as an artist. It became, and paying rent. It was like I got paid $1 at the door. Like it wasn't like, hey, we'll pay you this much for showing up. And I was like, no, whoever walks through the door, you get paid. We charge them $1 and that's what you get paid. But at the end of the night, like I was walking out, I felt a little kind of like a stripper, probably. Like I was getting like, I'd walk out with like $300 or $400 in ones, and I would have a great time. And then it became sort of an industry vehicle too, because I had record label people starting to show up at this little place, and eventually that's where the record label president at Capitol Records wound up coming to see me play. So it was kind of magical. It was a magical time in general for Nashville because I think Garth was peaked out, like he was like the Beatles. I mean, and I signed with Capitol, which was Garth's label, so I kind of know this. But it was, I think, with the Garth fascination and the Garth mania that had stricken the entire country, Nashville was like ready to do business. It was open for business. It wasn't scared. It wasn't scared money. They say scared money doesn't make money or whatever the saying is, and Nashville was like they were high rolling. So things moved really quick, and it was an exciting time, for sure. And it was a great way to like kind of just fall into the business. Really, I mean, it was a pretty magical time. I mean, they served beer by the quart, and you're 21 years old. Like what more can you hope for? I mean, and most people were there just to pick up chicks and play pool, but like you could still smoke cigarettes inside the bar. I mean, heck, times were good, right? It's almost like watching an episode of Mad Men. Like it was like everything
time travel back.
Oh, dude, it was like in black and white. It was awesome. It was thick smoke, dim lights, and loud music. So it was great.
I was gonna say, if you haven't put that in a song, that might be one.
Brother, that's already a title, and it's a good one. Google it up. It's been covered a bunch. Yeah, it's a great song.
So, but as you said, Jimmy Bowen came by, offered you that recording contract there at the pool hall.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't mention.
I mean,
Amy's. The pool hall was called Amy's, and actually, we had a commemorative edition re-recording of Lipstick Promises, which was a big hit for me. That was kind of like my signature song at radio during the Capitol years, and like we re-recorded it during the pandemic because we couldn't tour. And made a video for it too, and we put Amy's into the video. Like we went back to that bar and shot in front of that bar, which it wasn't called Amy's at the time, but we photoshopped it in somehow. It's not called Photoshop because it's a moving picture. It's not a still picture, obviously, but like my videographer had a way to do that. It was pretty magical. It was really cool. So anyway, I interrupted you, but I had to throw that in there. If y'all haven't seen the video, it's pretty cool.
I was gonna say it's awesome, and it works too. You talk about Lipstick Promises. When you released your debut album and you had the hit like Lipstick Promises, what was all that like? Because you're coming off of the kind of songwriting top 10 hit with Just Call Me Lonesome, and then you put out your debut album and have a pretty good hit there in Lipstick Promises. So I'm guessing you're feeling good, and it's got to be pretty cool to actually be able to put your debut album out.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. And looking back, I feel even more fortunate because I mean, there were a lot of artists on labels at the time that they were really talented, talented artists in their own right, and some of them never even got a chance to get their record out. Timing is so important. For me, I got 2 records out on Capitol before things kind of like flip-flopped and got weird, and everybody got fired, and a lot of the artists got kind of canned also. But and you take it all as a barely an adult, you know, you really internalize all that stuff. Like you take it all personally, but looking back, I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's just like that's like life. It's kind of like the football team or whatever. If you, well, you're Kentucky, you might be more basketball, right? I don't know if you're more
A
basketball.
little bit. We've had a little bit of interesting things happen here basketball wise.
For sure. I mean, it's a basketball state, but you know, it's the same analogy. Like, you know, when a new coach comes in, I mean, they're going to want their own guys. You know, they're going to probably favor their own players, the guys that they bring in, the guys that they sign. They're going to hire a whole new staff around them, and that's just kind of, you know, it's like any other business, whether it's corporate America, whether it's sports, whether it's, you know, whether it's the music business. So, I mean, but at the time, you take it all really personally. But yeah, there were a bunch of people that came out of that time period, the mid '90s, late '90s, and then there were a bunch of people that never got a chance to, you know. So it was all real. It was just everything moved really, really fast, you know. Like I remember when Lipstick Promises came out and the record came out. That was actually my second single. Teardrops was the first single. Kind of a honky tonker, very much also like, you know, the Buck Owens stuff that we talked about. And that wound up being like a top 20 hit or something of that nature, top 25. Lipstick Promises went top 10 and was like a big #1 video. So yeah, I felt pretty good, and I was like, this is easy. What's next? You know, I mean, you're just invincible, you know. And I was on tour with Alan Jackson quite a bit at the time, and then transitioned to other you know, compadres at the time. Diamond Rio did probably 6 months stint with them, and I did quite a bit of time with the Mavericks, which I really enjoyed. Just various folks did a, you know, we were everywhere, and it was a blast. And I learned a lot during that time, and you know, that's something you just sort of like, you're earning your stripes, you know. And it was exciting. Got to meet Buck Owens, one of my heroes. Got to meet Willie Nelson, my original hero, you know. So all kinds of crazy sort of checklist events, you know, kind of the bucket list stuff happens, you know, early on, and then you just sort of you try to like transition and just like, okay, what's next? Where am I going to go with this? You know, writing songs, becoming an independent artist, becoming a mentor to others, you know, trying to help others in their journey. So it's it's all part of it.
Well, I was gonna say you mentioned that second album you put out, Where I Stand, and like you said, things got a little weird at Capitol, and you know, then I'm guessing, you know, with you and your life, you know, things change with kind of what you see. Why'd you kind of go down that different path musically and kind of maybe go more the songwriting route and so forth?
Well, after the second album called Where I Stand, we had a couple songs out on the radio. Didn't do really as well. I mean, they charted on Billboard or whatever, but they didn't make an impact. And because, you know, clearly I was on my third record label president at the time. So things were very, very different at Capitol at that point, which was cool. I mean, I just started writing more, spending more time writing. Actually wound up, you know, it wound up being a blessing in many ways, because we had 2 kids, and, you know, kind of learning to be a father, and that was a whole eye opener in and of itself. You know, I don't know if you have kids, but wow, it's like nothing teaches you humility like that. You know, so it was a growth period. After, you know, several years of solid touring, whether it was the United States or UK or Switzerland or all kinds of, you know, my first couple albums took me everywhere. And after that, it was kind of like time to like, okay, I'm gonna write some songs, I'm gonna write some hits, and, you know, I'm gonna spend some time at home and learn how to become a responsible parent, you know. So, and I would still go out and play the occasional show, but it wasn't a focus anymore. And shows would fall in my lap occasionally. Like, I remember one the craziest one was we got an offer to go play a soccer stadium in Brazil, which that's nuts. I mean, you think we're drinking here tonight? This is nothing. I mean, it's wow, man. That is just a crazy like just landing in Sao Paulo. Like it's just nuts. We had a blast. I mean, it was a blast, but it was like a quick, 2 or 3 day experience, and then back home. But so if something like that would fall into my lap, I'd go do it. But short of that, I was spending much time at home, and writing songs, and a lot of great things came out of that. A lot of hits that I've written for other artists. So that was really rewarding in a different way.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, for me, I know some of my jobs have changed over time, and I'm so thankful that I've been able to spend time with my daughter and be there and do the fun things with her. How important was it for you to spend all that time with your kids and
Oh man.
wife and family?
Well, I mean, I didn't know before this conversation that you are a father as well, but like, you never get that time back. You don't get to go, oh, I'm sorry, I missed the first 15 years of your life. Can we just like back it up and like, you don't get to do that again. Like, this is the only shot. It's the only shot. It's like reminds me of that Eminem song. You got one shot. And like you can't. You just have to like seize the day. You really do. You have to wake up and go like every day. It's like full tilt as a parent, because they're full tilt, and you better be on board. And sometimes you don't. I'll be honest, man. It's tough. Like, it sucks sometimes. Like being 6 a.m. with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and trying to get everything like out the door and on time. And whew, I mean, it's. But looking back, I would not have had it any other way. Like, it was awesome. I logged some serious time in my truck driving my kids around. But I wouldn't do it any other way. I really wouldn't. And then because before you know it, they get. I don't know how old your daughter is, but wow, man, they get their own lives and they're gone. I mean, she's 5.
Yeah.
So you got a few more years of like where. Not that many though, man. They're gonna fly, brother. They're gonna.
Oh, they've already flown.
Dude,
It's crazy.
The rate of acceleration will only increase. Like, it is crazy, dude. Bro, I'm serious. Like, it is absolutely nuts. I mean, so by the time they're 15, whoop, they're gone. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
At that point, it's like you better be packing them up for college, or whatever, because they're going to be doing their own thing.
I'm trying to make her stop growing. Gotta want to enjoy this time.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, for sure.
Oh man.
And try to enjoy it as much as you can, because as hectic as it is, like, when it's not hectic anymore, you'll be like, oh, that was awesome, So, and I say this, I'm the kind of guy that would have never missed having kids had I never had them. Like, I was never like, oh, I can't wait to be a dad. I wasn't that guy. But I absolutely adore my kids. Like, they're awesome. Like, I took them to the Dominican last year and just had a blast taking them there. Like, we have a great time now, and it's almost like, I mean, they're I don't want to say they're adults, but they are young. They are young adults, and it's different. It's like, wow, they are their own people now, and you sort of have to like let them be that. So it's pretty awesome to behold. Anyway.
Well, I was gonna say, and because of that, whether it was doing the shows, touring, getting to see so much, and having those life experiences, or being able to spend time with your family and having those life experiences, I'm sure that led to a lot of different songs that you were able to write. And what was it like to either write or co-write hit songs with, like you said, Garth Brooks, George Jones, The Chicks, Sarah Evans, and so many others?
I mean, it's kind of weird how it happens, like, because I never really write a song with someone else in mind. And I think we talked about this previously, but I kind of just try to write good songs, and then sometimes they wind up, or did wind up, sort of in someone's hands that got them into the right place, got them into the right room to get heard by whoever, Dixie Chicks or Garth or whoever, Eli Young band or these Randy Rogers band, these other folks. So I just try to write a good song. I mean, and that usually starts with a good idea. Like I have an adage that's like, basically it comes down to the fact that you can't polish a turd. I mean, if you start with an idea that's crappy, it's really, really hard to write a good song. I'm being funny, but I'm also being serious. And the better idea you start out with, the truly honed idea with a direction and a directive that guides you to what that song is going to be about and the vibe of it, musically and everything else, lyrically, emotionally. It makes it that much easier to write a great song, the better the idea is. So, like, I'm a big believer in sort of like, let's don't vomit out a song just on the first idea that comes around. Like, let's take our time and talk about all the different ideas we have. Like, what's the rush? Because honestly, Music Row is a machine, and you can get stuck down there just kind of trying to quick out 2 songs a day. 1 song a day, 2 songs, 3 songs a day, like whatever. We do not, the world doesn't need, there's so much music out there, the world does not need another average song. It doesn't. We don't need it. It's not going to move the needle for anyone. So why finish it? Like, if the idea is average, I mean, you're better off taking another couple hours and really talking about talking real life than just finishing a half-baked idea, because like, let's refine. Maybe that idea could become something, but let's figure out what could it really become. But like, let's don't settle on the first easiest route. Or maybe that route is right, but let's at least put it on the table to discuss it and really try to sort out kind of our fine tune it. That's what I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Well, and when you're writing those songs, and like you said, you're not really writing for anyone. You're just hoping to make a good song or a great song. And when obviously at the end of the day, that was your job. At times was to send songs to other people and let them live. Is there ever one though that you look back on and were like, man, I almost wish I'd have recorded that one?
Man, I did. There are some. I mean, when I get guys like buddies of mine, like. It happens every now and then. Usually it's coming from out of Texas, but I'll get a video in the middle of the night with a buddy of mine texting me he's at a show. Sometimes he's working the show, like he's front of house at the show or whatever, and he's working for. And then you guys might even not know who the Randy Rogers band is.
Oh no,
in Kentucky.
No, I know Randy Rogers band. He even has his own whiskey.
Well, there you go. Who doesn't? I mean, who doesn't?
I know.
Besides me. But like, so Randy, I wrote "Kiss Me in the Dark" for those guys, and it's a big song for them. And every now and then I'll wake up to some ding on my phone. Not that I usually turn it off, but I'll wake up and see it. And there'll be a video of somebody who's either going to the show or working the show in some capacity, sending me a video of them playing "Kiss Me in the Dark," the song I wrote, and panning the crowd, and like crazy thousands of people. And I'll get a little bit of that, like, wow, man. And then I get people coming up to me going, because I play that song quite frequently, especially if I'm in Texas. I'll play "Kiss Me in the Dark," and I'll talk about, hey, I wrote this song for, I know we got some Randy Rogers band fans here out in the crowd tonight, and they'll, woo, And I'll tip my cap to Randy and the guys, and love those guys. And then after the show, I'll frequently have people coming up to me going, "Wow, gosh, y'all, you sing that song better than they do," like, or whatever. They're just being nice, but because I love Randy's version, and I love the band, But it's sweet of them to say that, and we do our own thing with the tune, but like maybe a little bit of that. It's like, why didn't you? I'll even get the question like, why didn't you keep that song for yourself? Like, I'll be like, well, it's just not. I wasn't making a record at the time, and I wrote this song. these guys were making a record,
Well,
and they were looking for a
and
song.
unfortunately, you never know, right? You never know either. Sometimes what'll always connect.
Yeah, well, and they were looking for a tune, you know. But you know, I feel like we should play it. We should play a little version of it right now or something. But and but there's other tunes like Beer Run that I wrote for Garth, and he wound up making it a duet for George Jones. And I don't really have any artistic connection to that tune. You know, it's a fun song, and we play it too because it's a fun live song and people have a good time with it. But it's probably not a song I don't think I would have recorded it. Like maybe that's why Garth's where he is and I'm where I am.
Well, you got to be true to yourself, though, right?
Yeah, you do. And I mean, I'm just. It's a goofy song. It's probably goofier than I get as an artist. It's a little bit goofier, but it's a fun tune, and we have a good time with it. So, and I mean, I enjoy singing one verse kind of like Garth, and the next verse kind of like George Jones, you know. And like, I mean, I knew Garth from the Capitol days a little bit, but George Jones was always a hero, you know. I had I played one show with him maybe back in the day, Florida, like a big festival. Got to meet him. Hello, Mr. Jones, you know. So I mean, it's a real honor. Like the fact that he ever sang one of my songs is nuts. Just still nuts to me. That was quite a few years ago. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Well,
I'm rambling now, Jonathan, because I've had 2 or 3 bourbons. So there you go.
my fault. But this is great because now you're back in the studio and doing stuff. What pushed you to get back in the studio and maybe work toward a new album?
I mean, that's always you just keep writing a collection of songs until you feel like you have an album. And I got introduced to one of my favorite producers of all time, which Pete Anderson out there in California, and decided to head out there and make a record with him after we really hit it off just on the telephone a couple years back. And his records were really influential for me when I was still a teenager. And I was hearing his guitar playing and his production, his mixes on the radio, mainly through the Dwight Yoakam stuff early on. He produced and played guitar both in studio and on the road for Dwight, and the first several albums, everything from Guitars Cadillacs to Honky Tonk Man, 1,000 Miles from Nowhere, all those songs, like that was Pete, and that was Pete's vision, you know. And I know that now because I've worked with him on this entire record. He produced it, and man, we just hit it off in a way that really superseded my admiration of Radney Foster when I first met him, when I was very green right off the turnip truck in Nashville. Met Radney, and he was kind of like that uncle, father figure. When I met Pete just a couple of years back, wow, I mean, we just clicked, you know. And Pete's worked with not only, you know, the Dwight stuff that I heard when I was 18, 19 years old, but also Lucinda Williams, who's like the queen of the Americana music movement. I'm just a huge fan of hers, and Pete's, you know, produced her. Pete's worked with everybody from Buck Owens himself back in the day on the collaboration with Dwight, Streets of Bakersfield, to Roy Orbison. He's just he's basically a chapter in American music history, and he's a wonderful guy. And we see things the same way, musically, and even, I think, worldviews. So, actually going to see him again out in Los Angeles in a couple weeks. So when I had that opportunity, it was like, he was like, well, send me some songs, you know. Started sending him tunes, and it went from there. And that's what this album is. Long Way From Home is like is a labor of love for sure with Pete, and just have enjoyed that process. Like I'm not hyping an album now as an artist. I'm saying literally it is the most awesome time I've ever had making music. Like making a record was with Pete Anderson, for real.
Well, and your first single, like I said at the top of the show, is "Hello Fool." Why was that the one you kind of wanted to lead with? And can you talk a little bit about what drew you to that one?
Man, I don't care what they play at radio. Like, honestly, Hello Fool wasn't. I think it was maybe just a digital release. I'm not even sure. I mean, radio is kind of like, like it's what is radio anymore? Really? I mean, it's really about playlists and Spotify and Apple. Like, actually, I think the first single was "Crying Time," which I'm happy to play you a little bit of that. But that actually was a radio single to Texas radio and the Americana stations. And it did quite well. It got played on Sirius XM Outlaw, which was super cool. Had a really good time, working with those guys on sort of getting the buzz out about the record. And of course, Sirius XM is a great, champion of music. And although it's a corporation like radio is these days, it's still got a fresh take. It's like I still feel like Sirius XM's got some. They get to call their own shots. And "Crying Time" is even a title that like Buck Owens had back in the day, but we have a different version of it. So it's an up-tempo tune. And, it's just a lot of fun. We play it live. We play several of the songs live already. So "Crying Time" and "Hello Fool" are kind of the first couple tunes that we've led with digitally and one at radio, and then in June we'll kick off with a couple more singles.
Well, you want to play a little bit of "Crying Time"?
Well, what the heck, sure. Crying time is all the time. I break down when she walks by. Morning, evening, rain or shine, it's my crying time. She was my sunset and sunrise, 7 days a week, until some stranger caught her eye, took her love from me. Now these dark old glasses on my eyes hide these tears that never dry. Crying time is all the time. I break it down when she walks by. Morning, evening, rain or shine, it's my crying time. Tell myself she's nothing more than just a pretty face. I lock her out of my heart's door every single day. Just when I think I'm all better, tears come down like rainy weather. Crying time is all the time. I break it down when she walks by. Morning, evening, rain or shine, it's my crying time. All the time, I break it down when she walks by. Morning, evening, rain or shine, it's my crying time. It's my crying time. Anyway,
I feel like no matter when you were alive, like if someone was live, whether they were listening to a song in the 70s, 80s, 90s, now, like that would have been able to be, even back then, like that would have fit in just perfectly, and people would be jamming along. Because I mean, I worked at a classic country station, so I remember Buck and listening to Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and getting to know all those, and I'm like, that kind of takes me right back to those, which I know that's kind of, in a sense, your heroes. So it's a perfect song.
Oh man, it's just a lot of fun. It's not like trying to be too. Life is so serious already these days. I feel like, can we just have some fun and get out on the dance floor a little bit? So
Absolutely, absolutely.
and music has so many different ideations. You can do so much with it. It's a canvas that can be painted all kinds of different ways, and it doesn't all have to be, some super deep Mozart kind of piece. I mean, I'm mixing now music with painting, but it doesn't all have to be Van Gogh. Sometimes it can just be just a good time, and so Crying Time is a tongue in cheek kind of honky tonker, and I love that aspect of country music.
Well, and I'm guessing songs like that are a ton of fun to play, and what's it like to be out there and get on stage and perform the new songs and maybe even some of the older songs that people
Oh,
might have first heard you perform?
oh, 100%. I mean, we mix it up. I mean, I mix the new album stuff. We've already started doing that, like 3 or 4 songs off the current, the new record that's coming out, June 21st. Plug. But mix a lot of that, right in with everything from Lipstick Promises to, Teardrops to like the independent records that have been out recently. Yellow Rose Motel was a record that I put out back in 2020, the pandemic year, right before I started talking to Pete and working on this record that's coming out. And we had a couple songs that, like, one of them was called Eastwood, that went. It was a big CMT video. Went actually somehow miraculously made it to #1 on the CMT charts. But Don't Leave Her Lonely. There's some really good songs off the Yellow Rose Motel album, but because it was like the pandemic, it's almost like the lost era. It's weird because and everybody was suffered from some of that, but a really strong record, a record I'm still really proud of. A much more, I guess, it's a little more slick production. I recorded it here, co-produced it. Right here in Nashville, before having hooked on with Pete. I mean, it's still got some honky tonk aspects to it for sure, but it's got some really great songs. Don't Leave Her Lonely is still one that I really enjoy playing live. There's a number of tunes off that record, so yeah, we mix them all in together, like everything from Crying Time to the title track from the new record, Long Way From Home, so Hello Fool. So yeah, I mean, and actually we're coming to Kentucky, your home state, July 26th. So in Newport, which I think is maybe about 90 minutes from you, and
Yeah, just up I-75, and I know you're hitting, I think, Columbus and Indianapolis, making a little trip out of it, and
yeah.
I'm guessing it's got to be fun to be able to get out and showcase more of those songs off this new record.
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, absolutely. It's what keeps it fresh. It's like you can only play the same show for so long before it's like, okay, we got to switch it up here. We got to throw something. We got to throw a curveball. And it really, because it's live music. Like, you don't ever want it to be. You want to keep it spontaneous feeling. That's what sort of keeps the magic going. Just like when you go to go to a Springsteen show. Like, it's never quite the same. Like, he's taking requests from the crowd, and that's what keeps it kind of magical and makes it a community experience, as opposed to something that's just more canned, that's got it, just kind of the same every night. Like, it shows. Like, it's like a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? I think but like, it's a little too choreographed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
a little too polished, a little too just,
it's
It's
all choreographed. It's like, oh, you guys aren't really playing. You're sitting in the crowd going, y'all aren't really playing for me. You're just doing what you did last night and what you're going to do again tomorrow night. Like, that's not, whatever. Anyway, that's not my.
That's not enjoyable.
That's not how I do it. And but somebody like Reba McEntire, that's how she does it, and she's immensely successful. So, it's like different flavors. It's all good.
Absolutely, and as we wrap up, I know you got the new album dropping June 21st. some more singles maybe before that people will get a taste of it.
Yeah.
What else can folks expect from you as the year? It's crazy to think we're almost like halfway through the year. We're almost into May now. Like, it's blowing my mind. Like, what else can folks expect from you the rest of 2024?
Dude, it's insane. I mean, Jonathan, we'll probably do a couple of videos for this record. We haven't really popped those yet, but we'll get some more touring going for sure. Anticipate a really strong like summer and fall with this album, and we're going to try to hit every region. And yeah, just kind of back home on the home front, be doing some more writing for the next record. I've already got a couple songs in the can with Pete Anderson for the next record. So if you guys, if y'all like this record when it comes out, I encourage you to stay tuned, because we're coming with a even harder honky tonk record on the next one. And looking forward to getting to Newport, Kentucky, hopefully Lexington too. Follow up the Newport show on July 26th with some more shows in Kentucky and in the southeast region. Coming out with a vinyl, doing a vinyl LP of the album along with From Home. Just really excited, and we're going to kick it off the day that the record comes out. We're going to be doing a big show here in Nashville at Eric Church's new place downtown Broadway.
Nice.
Called Chiefs. So that's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a fun night. June 21st, and we'll do a big vinyl release party the next day on Saturday at Grimey's Record Store. They're kind of a classic Nashville joint that they sell vinyl, and that's all they do. They're an old school record store. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening, and just trying to build on it each day. Stack wins every day.
Well, I think if people give Long Way From Home a chance when it comes out June 21st, I've been able to maybe get a little peek under the hood, and it's some good songs coming folks' way, and I think they really need to check it out. And George, thanks for playing a song, sharing a drink,
Jonathan,
and telling some good stories.
Cheers to you, brother. Cheers to you. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
And I really enjoyed chatting with you, not just tonight, but on our other failed mission a couple weeks back. And I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but I've really enjoyed it. And man, I hope to see you in July. And if you think you might be coming, you know who to hit up, and we'll swap cells and we'll make it happen. I'll
Absolutely.
I'll roll out the hillbilly backstage red carpet for you.
the shag carpet or the
shag carpet. I like that even better. I'm gonna use that just like 1,000,000%.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. See, this is why we talk. The
hillbilly shag carpet. That's what it is.
There you go.
All right, man.
Well, George, I appreciate
love
it, man.
to see
Thank you.
Seriously, I extend that invitation to you. So, hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Cheers, man.
All right, man. Take care.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.